Here's to the bold. The Professional Women's Hockey League is back. Lace up, strap in, and tune in to Hockey Saturdays on CBC, where you can catch the best women's hockey players competing head-to-head with everything they've got. The puck drops Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on CBC, CBC Gem, and cbcsports.ca. Don't miss it.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at +2 with mainly sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The public inquiry into foreign interference has concluded there are no traitors in Parliament. But Commissioner Marie-Josée Augue says the federal government and national security agencies have to do more to guard against meddling by foreign states. Rafi Boudjikanian explains.
I saw evidence of some concerning behavior.
Commissioner Marie-Josée Augue says there is need for caution, but
the evidence does not show any MPs plotting with foreign states against Canada's interests.
That evidence, 47,000 government documents, mostly classified, more than 100 witnesses interviewed, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, members of his cabinet, and the head of Canada's spy agency CSIS. Augue says the threat of meddling is real.
Certain foreign states are attempting to interfere in our electoral processes and democratic institutions.
Augue has multiple recommendations, some focusing on the pre-writ period, suggesting Elections Canada should have jurisdiction over nominations and party leadership contests. She also says CSIS needs to do a better job flagging political decision makers about the relevance of its intelligence. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
A 36-year-old man is recovering after being stabbed and robbed while walking in Winnipeg's West End. Last night, police were called to around Simcoe and Wellington Avenue. They say two unknown women asked the man for a cigarette. He was then jumped by three men and dragged into an apartment where he was robbed, assaulted, and stabbed. He managed to get away and call police, and he was rushed to hospital in unstable condition and later upgraded to stable. Winnipeg will be the first city in Canada to be home to a pickleball chain, and Kenaston Common could be its first location. Bernie Plett is the president of TPC Development and the Pickler Canada. He says they're negotiating with properties to open 7 pickleball courts across the country.
It looks like the Winnipeg location will be coming online first. We signed a letter of intent to lease a building, 30,000 square feet. That'll host as many as 12 courts.
The company's first Winnipeg facility is expected to open either in August or September. Platt says they're already looking at a second Winnipeg site in either the north part of the city or St. Vital. The Pickleball Club of Winnipeg is also constructing a facility in Headingley. Ottawa has a multi-billion-dollar aid program in the works if U.S. President Donald Trump imposes tariffs on Canadian products. Regio Canada is reporting the plan is similar to economic measures taken during the pandemic. David Thurton has details.
This is who we are as Canadians, and we're going to win. We have to be confident. No.
Francois-Philippe Champagne with that message while visiting Linamar, a manufacturing company in Ontario. What he didn't say, though, is this. The federal government is preparing a multi-billion-dollar aid package if Trump proceeds with his tariffs. While the precise amounts aren't confirmed yet, the measures would target workers and businesses, possibly companies like Linamar. The manufacturer conducts significant cross-border trade. One of its execs, Linda Hasenfratz, underscored what's at stake.
So, in my opinion, if a significant tariff is imposed, it'll bring the industry to its knees.
Some of the government's planned measures could be adopted on their own. Many require parliamentary approval, a challenging task when opposition parties have vowed to bring down the government. David Thornton, CBC News, Ottawa.
A possible strike today at Canadian National Railway has been averted. The company has come to terms on a 4-year tentative contract agreement with the union representing more than 700 signals and communication workers across the country. The details haven't been made public, and the deal still needs to be ratified. And finally, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is closing out his visit this week to Poland by issuing a warning about rising levels of hate and anti-Semitism. Tom Perry has your details.
The tools that AI and social media are bringing to bear on populations as ways of creating more anger, more fear, more division are truly alarming.
Trudeau stressed the need to challenge messages of hate, but when asked about recent incidents involving billionaire tech mogul Elon Musk, Trudeau was more circumspect. Musk, who is a close confidant of U.S. President Donald Trump, was photographed offering what looked to some like a Nazi salute, something Musk denies. Musk later appeared via video link at a conference of Alternative for Germany, or AfD, a far-right political party. He told party supporters Germany was too focused on its past guilt, an apparent reference to its Nazi era. Trudeau didn't mention Musk or AfD and spoke instead about democracies being influenced by messages of division. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk was more direct, calling the rise of AfD in Germany an exceptionally dangerous trend. Tom Perry, CBC News, Warsaw.
And for news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app. Looking at the afternoon forecast, we have a chance of rain or flurries in Winnipeg today with a high around +2 and wind. In Brandon, a high of +2 with a chance of flurries. Dauphin, a high of +1 with a chance of flurries as well. In Flin Flon, you could see light snow, and you're looking for a high around -9 with wind. Thompson, periods of light snow, a high of -17 degrees. And on the bay in Churchill, a high around -29 and mainly sunny. Right now, you are listening to CBC Radio 1.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk. Good to be with you. Quite the range of temperatures across the province this morning. Hotspot right now, this afternoon, is McCreary at 5 degrees, but up in Churchill, get this, -30 right now in Churchill. We'll have some more in-depth weather for you coming up in the show. But right now, stay tuned, because after 12:35, it's been over half a year since the province launched its EV rebate program, and we now know how many Manitobans have claimed that rebate. After 12:35, we're going to find out what that number is, and we're also opening up the phone lines to hear from EV owners and wannabe EV owners about their experiences. But up first on the show, Brandon property owners will pay 6.9% more in taxes this year after the city passed its annual budget. That may sound like a lot, but until recently, the plan was to raise taxes by 11.7%. Jeff Fawcett is mayor of Brandon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. So let's just start. How did you manage to get the tax increase down from 11.7% to 6.9%?
Well, we have lots of those public sessions leading up to this, and so we did talk about a lot of things. Like, I think everybody knew it wasn't going up from councils, and we knew that we were working with the province on a couple of things for this year, and they did end up showing up to help us out with work at our Western Manitoba Centennial Auditorium, which was a 1-year item, and it did help us this year. We did have our surplus, and council did decide to put that pieces of surplus that was there, the amount back into the system, so that we didn't add additional tax this year. People already paid that, so that was almost 2% right there. And then there was just some other larger items that we have our big outdoor sports complex that will start this year. And council was deliberating and debating with the staffing estimate at the cost of running it, and realizing we'd only be running it a half season, we did adjust that as well. Now, that being said, all those things are in next year's budget at full price.
Right, and actually that was going to be my next question. So I know, like you've said before when we've had you on air, that Brandon does need these double-digit tax increases to stay financially sustainable. So, is this just delaying a bigger increase down the road? Like, what could next year's tax increase look like?
Yeah, I do think that there's a good chance next year's tax increase will be above the percent that we ended up with this year.
So more than 11.7%.
Well, no, more than 7.
Okay, more than 7. Okay, but could it be a double digit potentially next year?
Next year does look like there's a good chance that we got a lot of work that we're going to need to do, because like the items that the one-off items that weren't in this year are still in there next year. Of course, we're going to account for growth. There's a number of other items that we'll look at through the year, but like we still have another couple of years of difficult decisions to make. But we have a good council that debates and deliberates, and we end up with what we end up with.
So at the end of the day, this is still less revenue than if you left it at 11.7%. And then you said you did have some help from the province, but in terms of other things, you did have to make some cuts. So what programs, projects, purchases are being impacted by?
We didn't make many cuts. We just didn't do a lot of addition.
Okay, but weren't there some cuts to police maintenance and the doctor recruitment budget though too, right?
Oh, well, there was cuts to the police budget, but that was like that money that was added money. Like so, they wanted more to do more work.
Gotcha.
So probably some positions in there, not boots on the ground positions necessarily.
Mm-hmm. So it was money that you kind of took off the table essentially.
Took off the table.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then the police board will make those decisions.
Okay. And
the doctor recruitment is we changed that because it was last year we put some stuff in place because again we're not really in that healthcare world, and that's a pretty big budget, and my goodness, as much as we would like to help the province, we can't afford to do healthcare, but we did put money specifically toward recruitment. So. We do have money towards recruitment, and we had 75 first and second year doctors here on Friday, and that's part of the kind of thing that we're putting money towards. So recruitment is still aggressive on our end.
Also, a major line item in the budget, I know it's probably been a thing for years, is the city's fleet of vehicles. It's about $18.2 million, and I know it's just the maintenance alone is a big part of that. So. What do you think needs to be done to lower the cost of the city's fleet and maintaining it down the road?
Well, that fleet last year was an enormous issue, and it continues to be, and it's going to be. We really, and I was on the council when we made sure we extended vehicles as far as we could, and you stay on some things long enough, and the chickens come home to roost, and we're dealing with like some real must-haves in fleet, and. So what we did is we moved, not affecting the taxes, but we moved some purchases into further out, and we are getting 2 new buses. We're refurbishing up to 10 buses this year. Refurbishing is a necessity because it takes 4 years to get buses, so the refurbishing is having to happen, and it was just stuff that was put off for so long. So fleet is going to be an issue for the next few years. But the other thing we were doing is we did have a tendency to buy it sort of in a spike where you would buy a whole bunch and then not, and we're trying to flatline that a little bit more. So we're not always doing, 5, 6, 7 years and you do a massive buys of things. So we're trying to flatline that a bit better.
And finally, before I let you go here, what does this new budget mean for roads in Brandon, which I know is always an ongoing concern as well as maintenance of roads?
Yeah, so there was a few little enhancements because the thing that council was very clear on is this is all about core services. So we did put additional money into streets and roads, sidewalks and curbs, and particularly pothole work. And potholes are not a Brandon phenomenon. I've spoke with mayors and councillors in Poland and all over the world. The temperature today, there's water on the street that's getting into cracks. It's getting into existing potholes, and they are going to be a disaster in the spring because it's going to freeze again. Freeze thaw in January and February is just creating havoc. So we have additional money in there to try to address that. I think we got to start working with lots of different communities to say what is our best solution for these going forward.
And last thing here, what is your message to the people of Brandon as this new budget is implemented over the next year?
Well, I'd like to say that they're well served. We're still looking to the future. And the council table, they're very fortunate. We have a lot of diverse opinions on there. So there's enough opinions that everybody's, everybody in the community's opinion is at the table there in some fashion. I'm getting feedback saying you guys took too much out, you needed to stay more, and I'll get feedback saying from others that the taxes should have been lower. So we are trying to make it best for future generations while not trying to impede today's taxpayers much.
Well, Mayor Fawcett, thanks for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Jeff Fawcett is the mayor of Brandon.
When you have to leave everything behind,
you're just trying to find a way to stay here for a better life.
What are the real costs of making a new start?
I have faced so many hardships financially, emotionally, and physically.
A CBC News series looks at what it's really like for newcomers.
I am losing hope.
Welcome to Canada, the immigrant experience.
Prepare yourself because coming here is not that easy.
Everywhere you get CBC News.
12:15 right now. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk. Still to come on the show. Stay tuned after 12:35. Have you bought an EV recently? How's it going? Why did you make the switch? We want to hear from you. We're opening up the phone lines. We're also going to find out just how many Manitobans have claimed the province's EV rebate so far since it opened in July. That's coming up after 12:35. But right now, let's take a look at your conditions across the province right now. And pretty much you can assume if you're further south, it's going to be a pretty warm day. But as you get further north, it gets gradually colder and colder. And let's take a look right now in Brandon. You're sitting at 2 degrees with some drifting snow. But Churchill right now, it's warmed up ever so slightly from 30. It's now minus 29 right now at the airport with some ice crystals. Down in Dauphin right now, there's actually some light rain that you're experiencing right now. You're sitting at 2. Flin Flon, some drifting snow for you. You're at minus 12 right now. Gillam, you're experiencing some light snow right now. You're sitting at minus 27. Lynn Lake, you are at minus 20. McCreary, you're the hot spot right now at 4 degrees. Dooley Lake is now the cold spot. It's sitting at minus 30. Thompson at the airport, you are minus 21 right now. In Winnipeg at the Forks, 3 degrees. Well, you don't usually hear the sound of swordplay in the gym or yoga studio, and residents in Prince Rupert, BC, however, are swinging into the opportunity. CBC's Carolina Derick stepped into battle with Aaron Lamontagne to find out more about the art of the slice and parry.
Good. Hello! My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
From The Princess Bride to Lord of the Rings to Game of Thrones, sword fighting is key to the thrill. But, for all the hours I've spent watching Hollywood sword fights, I've never really thought about what it would be like to try it myself. Until this week.
My name is Aaron Lamontagne. I'm the provost and director at Golden Triangle Fencing right here in Prince Rupert, BC.
Aaron is a trained sword fighter who's bringing this unique way of play to Prince Rupert. So I've got my microphone in one pocket, my recorder in the other pocket. Now I've got a sword between my hands.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Are you lefty?
No, I'm a righty.
So you're going to want your dominant hand on top.
Okay.
I'm going to deliver a cut that's going to displace your blade. It's going to stop about a hand span from your head. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
The weapon goes first.
Right.
I step in behind it.
Uh-huh.
I'm safe as houses, and you're about to be all split like a big
Now
old
you're
melon.
killing me.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm killing you safely.
Aaron always wanted to use swords, but it wasn't until he came across the Academy Duello in Vancouver that daily swordplay became a reality. It started in 2004, and the Academy Duello is committed to reviving the martial traditions of medieval and early modern Europe, like using broadswords and daggers. It's also one of the founding members of the Global Chivalric Fighting Arts Association.
I was wandering around Vancouver before a shift I had at a bar I was working at, and I saw a little sandwich board that said, "Learn to sword fight, first lesson free." and thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to go give them all my money. And then I did. And years later, here I am. I am very much a spokesperson for the art. I'm happy to show it to anyone and everyone, just to find those few people who think, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing in the world. It's absolutely for me. Because it's brought me a lot of joy and happiness. I've become the best version of myself through swordplay. I was kind of a weird, awkward, lonely kid. I have made friends. I'm a lot more engaged with my physicality, with physical activity. And it's been a real good space for my own personal growth, and I hope to share that with anyone who's interested.
And for Aaron himself, this week is another step closer to achieving his dream.
There's a noise that I've seen it mostly in children, but plenty of adults have made it too, where the first time they stick a very hard technical technique that I show them, they go, oh. Their eyes get a little wider. They grow a half an inch taller as soon as they do it. And that is so beautiful for me to see. I get to see someone feel confident and powerful, maybe sometimes for the very first time. Good. And now from here, I want you to just, one more time. Good. Awesome.
That's Aaron Lamontagne. He teaches sword fighting with the Golden Triangle Fencing in Prince Rupert, BC. Well, at 12:20 now, let's talk about a very different battle happening right here in Manitoba. The showcase between the Junior Hockey Leagues of Manitoba and Saskatchewan kicked off last night at the Seven Oaks Sportsplex here in Winnipeg. And for players, it's a chance to perform in front of NHL scouts, amongst other big professional league scouts. And for hockey fans, it's a chance to watch the best young players from both provinces give everything they've got. Kyle Swar is the Director of Marketing and Partnerships for the MJHL. Hello there.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. So how big a deal is this event for players who are, hoping eventually to play in the NHL?
Yeah, well, I'd say this event's a pretty big deal for them. The 60 best players from the MJHL, the 60 best from the SJHL come together over this 3-day event and compete and battle it out in front of college scouts and university scouts, Western Hockey League scouts, and some scouts from the NHL too. So, they're all looking to take it to the next level and earn a scholarship beyond playing junior hockey. So it's a really competitive event when the two provinces always come together, and we've had a great working relationship with the powers that be at the SJHL. And so we've kind of been doing this since 2018, I believe. The first couple were in Saskatchewan, and COVID kind of put a damper on things for a couple of seasons. But then, the last, 3 renditions of this event have been in Winnipeg now.
And how competitive is it to actually make it onto one of these teams playing in the showcase?
Yeah, I'd say it's fairly competitive. The coaching staffs that get put together for this event, spend quite a few hours putting the rosters together and talking it out and, seeing which players fit where and who would fit best here. And so it's quite a lengthy process, and with only 60 spots per league for this event, it's pretty, I'd say, highly sought after.
And how unique of an event is this? Like, are there other provinces that kind of go head to head like this in terms of their own junior leagues, or is this kind of a unique thing that happens just between Manitoba and Saskatchewan?
Yeah, out east, I know there's a couple of the Ontario leagues that do something similar. And out west, like prior, at the end of each season in prior years, there was an event actually between Manitoba and Saskatchewan called the Anavet Cup. And that would be the winner of the SJHL meeting the winner of the MJHL in a 7-game series with a spot in the national championship tournament. So that kind of went away a few years ago, and now so that this event takes place for us here in Manitoba and our friends in Saskatchewan, it kind of you kind of really see that competitiveness come out. And some people say, oh, this is an all-star game, but I'd say it's far from it. If you watch the games, the intensity, the battle, and the compete level are just super high.
And I got to ask, 'cause I imagine there's also the classic interprovincial sort of rivalry there. So who historically has actually won more, Saskatchewan or Manitoba?
Yeah, Saskatchewan has gotten the better of us over the course of the event. Last year, I believe the Team MJHL, we won 2 and lost 4. The 4 that we lost were 1-goal games. That came down to the wire. So, the great thing about these 2 leagues is they're very similar in skill level, very similar in compete level, and the amount of players that each league is moving on to the next level is pretty similar as well.
And as you mentioned, there's a number of scouts that are going to be there as well. How much stock do those scouts put on an event like this in terms of their decision whether to recruit someone to potentially the NHL?
Yeah, I would say that these players are competing at an extremely high level, and for them to make that jump to the next level, they're really putting everything they've got into it. And the scouts put a ton of stock into it, I would say, because this is a best on best event where they are competing against each other at the highest level. So you really get to see kind of who rises above and who can kind of take it to that next level and show that maybe that they can play, whether it's NCAA Division I hockey or at the Western Hockey League level.
And what do you think this tournament says about the interprovincial relationship between Manitoba and Saskatchewan, besides the fact that Saskatchewan might be slightly better at junior hockey?
Yeah, I'd say, what does it say? I think we have a really strong relationship with them, and we have for a number of years. And they're great people to work with and very accommodating. And I'd say the relationship is great between the 2 league entities.
Now, and I also understand people can watch this as well. What do people need to know if they do want to watch these games happening today and tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find a link either on our social media platforms or on our web that takes you to Flow Hockey. All of the games are streamed live or on demand in high definition. And if people want to buy tickets as well online, we have a link, or you can come in person and buy tickets here 1 hour prior to each game. So games, I've got the first game kind of going on behind me right now. It started at noon, and then 1 at 3 and 1 at 6, and tomorrow 11, 2, and 5. So if you're not doing anything during the daytime, come out and enjoy some really high-end hockey.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Eric. Really appreciate it. I know we called you Kyle Baxman before. It's Eric. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much.
Eric Swar is the Director of Marketing and Partnerships for the MJHL. Games are on, as you heard, at the Seven Oaks Sportsplex in Winnipeg today and tomorrow. Well, time now is 12:27, and when you hear the term Brandon Post, it might actually sound like a paper in Brandon, but it's not. It's actually a guy from Colorado who has actually found a home here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and he describes his new single, he is a musician, it's called Sunday Serenade, as a mournful cry of addiction rivaling belief. Have a listen. This is Brandon Post with Sunday Serenade on CBC Radio 1.
My head's pounding at church. Well, it ain't the first time I've sat in this pew and heard. Oh, it's a lonesome, hollow sound. Everybody's praise is ringing out, ringing out. My head's pounding at church. Can't stop hurting who I love. There's this broken thing in me. I keep trying to fill it up. I keep pouring it down, and it keeps running out, just like my bank account. Can't stop hurting who I love. Won't know till you know. You won't stop doing it till you just don't.
That's Brandon Post with Sunday Serenade. Well, coming up here on Radio Noon, we are opening up the phone lines. We want to hear from EV owners and wannabe EV owners about, why they bought their car, what made them want to make that switch, or if you're holding off, why? What's keeping you from buying an EV? We're going to hear how popular the EV rebate here in Manitoba has been here. That's coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at +3 with mostly sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. Commissioner Marie-Josée Hogue has released the final report from the public inquiry into foreign interference.
At the outset of our work, I pledged that the Commission will carry out its mandate independently, impartially, fairly, and transparently. I will also add with rigor, proportionality, and speed. I believe it has done just that.
Hogue says she found no evidence of Parliament members plotting with hostile states against Canada's interests. And the report has 51 recommendations for preventing foreign interference. One is to upgrade the Elections Canada Act to better deal with misinformation and disinformation, which Hogue calls an existential threat to Canadian democracy. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, meanwhile, is closing out his visit to Poland, and he's issuing a warning about rising levels of hate and anti-Semitism. Trudeau says around the world he's seeing warning signs for democracies and worries how social media giants may be influencing elections.
Democracies being influenced by messages of division, of hatred, of targeting one group at the expense of another. That's something that we all have to be attentive to and vigilant about.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of Poland is troubled by the recent rise of a far-right political party in Germany. The party is called the AfD, or Alternative for Germany Party. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, spoke at an AfD conference last weekend and is supportive of the group. Musk controls the social media platform X, which nearly 250 million people use every day. Last week, Musk, who is a close confidant of U.S. President Donald Trump, was seen offering what looked to some like a Nazi salute, something Musk denies. During the AfD conference, Musk said Germany was too focused on its, quote, past guilt. In other news, a new pickleball facility is set to open later this year in Winnipeg. It'll be the first of its kind in Canada. Bernie Plett with Pickler Canada says it should open this summer in Kenaston Common, and it'll be the first of many across the country.
High-end at a place where people can feel really good at what they do and host championships. So ours is, we feel, a slightly different level than many of the other courts. However, all of the courts that are playing currently are really needed to help the growth and the development of the sport.
Plett says they're looking at a second location, either in the north part of the city or St. Vital. As well, the Pickleball Club of Winnipeg is opening a facility in Headingley. And finally, here in Manitoba, entry into provincial parks is free for the month of January. The province wants people to enjoy winter activities, and the very first Manitoba Winter Trails Day, we're told, will be celebrated on February 8th, which is a Saturday. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Back to that second last story. Have you ever played pickleball before?
I have once.
How'd it go?
It was fun.
Okay. I haven't played yet.
Great.
But I'm nervous. If I play once, I'm going to get addicted because that's all my friends who have ever played are like really into it now.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah,
it's like slow tennis.
Don't tell. I don't know if a pickleball folks would categorize that. Maybe they would. I don't know. But that's a good way to play.
Well, if Nadal hit the pickleball, I bet it would be fast.
Exactly. Thank you very much,
Back
Matt.
soon.
That is Matt Humphrey at our CBC News desk. Welcome back to Radio Noon. In just a minute or two here, we are going to be opening up the phone lines. We want to hear from EV owners or people who want to own EVs about why they bought their vehicle, maybe what's keeping you from buying an EV, even though it's something you plan to do. 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. We do know how popular the rebate program has been. We're going to let you know that number, the EV rebate program here in our province. We know we have those numbers. We're going to let you know right away. But first, let's just take a quick look at your weather. across the province. And boy, oh boy, is it cannot be different depending whether you're in the north or in the south. 3 degrees right now in Winnipeg at the Forks. It is going to go cool down ever so slightly to 2 degrees today with a chance of flurries or rain showers. It's going to dip down to -11 overnight with a 60% chance or so of flurries, and then warm up tomorrow to -3 with also a chance of flurries here in Winnipeg. Looking to Brandon, you're sitting at 2 degrees with a bit of drifting snow. It's going to dip down to -5 overnight, 60% chance of flurries for you overnight, and then mainly cloudy tomorrow, a high of -2. Dauphin, it is cloudy for you right now. You're sitting right at 0. It is going to be warming up to about 1 degree today, but then dipping to -9 tonight with a 6% chance of flurries. High of -2 with also some flurries potentially for you tomorrow as well. Thompson, much colder, -20 right now in Thompson. Your high today is -17 with some periods of light snow. It's going to clear overnight. -29 though is the low for tonight. It's going to warm up to -16 tomorrow with a 60% chance of snow. Well, turning now to our call-in conversation, what would it take to coax you to buy an electric vehicle? In July, the province launched its EV rebate program, allowing people to get as much as $4,000 back after buying a plug-in hybrid or fully electric vehicle. And since the program launched, here's the number, 2,529 Manitobans have claimed the EV rebate, according to the province. Over 1,900 of those are on purchases of new vehicles. Are you one of those people? Give us a call. What led you to buy an EV recently? How do you like your new purchase? What difference did the rebate make for you? We'd also love to hear from longtime EV owners. What's been your experience owning an EV in our province? Or for people who might want one but are still holding off, tell us what's keeping you from buying an EV. Call us now. This is our number, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Or text us, 204-588-7355. That's 204-588-7355. With us now is James Hart. He's president of the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Corey.
So 2,500 people have taken advantage of this program, this rebate program. What do you make of those numbers?
So it's very encouraging to see. It's nice to see the massive uptake in essentially 6 months, because kind of before, I believe the announcement was in May, June. So kind of before that, people were buying on your normal level, like kind of pre-incentive. So it's awesome to see how quickly the numbers can rise.
I'm still hoping to see the sales numbers. We've asked for those in terms of what's changed maybe over the past 3 years, especially since those rebates come up. But based on in your world, how many people do you know have actually bought an EV because of the provincial rebate?
So we've had a lot of people asking a lot more questions about them. It's hard to say how many have gone through with the purchase because of incentives, because it's usually incentives piled on top of other stuff. So, and especially right now, it's with the federal incentive going away, kind of people doing a mass push to pick one up now, with certain manufacturers still offering a $5,000 rebate on top of that.
Right. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story as an EV owner as well. But actually, first, we've got Howard on the line. Hi there, Howard.
Hi, Corey. How are you?
Good. So I understand you're an EV owner. Tell us a little bit about, when you buy your EV and the difference it's made for you.
I bought my EV in April of 2020, just at the beginning of the fear of the pandemic, and I went into a car dealership. I was on a waiting list, and they called me, and I went into an empty car dealership where they cleaned my pen after I used to sign something. And so I'm driving that EV right now, and it's really been almost exclusively a positive experience in every way. My car, I guess, because they're kind of new, and this manufacturer is kind of new, it's a Hyundai, there was some problems with an electronic component that they had to replace, nothing to do with the EV part of the car per se. But in terms of cost, in terms of the way it drives, in terms of the convenience of it, the fact that I never go to a gas station really except to fill my tires. It's been a fantastic experience. And my spouse drives a PHEV, a plug-in hybrid, and that's been a fantastic experience. I'm just trying to convince her to go fully electric, and she's almost there, but not quite.
Oh, does this rebate kind of help maybe, in that decision making potentially to go fully electric?
This is relatively new technology from a mass production standpoint, so I get why it's expensive. And so the incentives take a little bit of the pain away from that high price. These cars, the gas version of my car probably costs $15,000 less. So, when you factor in all of the other costs, and there was a study recently that said within generally 3 to 5 years, you recover all of the extra premium you pay for an EV through savings in fuel and maintenance. It was a big surprise to me how much I saved in maintenance. So the incentives are part of the overall equation from my standpoint. Mm-hmm. They certainly help. I know the federal one was ended recently and the provincial one is still there, so that's great. Mm-hmm. But when you figure in all the costs and you actually do the calculations, I think most people would find that your EV is going to be far cheaper. From my standpoint, it's also time. I don't spend a lot of time taking my car somewhere to have service done or that kind of thing, because there's very little to service in an EV. Mm-hmm. And very little goes wrong.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal from my standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's not just the cost, it's the time involved in running around getting all this stuff done.
Mm-hmm. And before I let you go, I'm actually also curious. So you've actually owned an EV now for 5 years. Have you noticed things in terms of infrastructure for charging, things like that have gotten easier over the past 5 years? Or have you noticed any difference in that?
There's 3 different things. So there's in the city, which is one thing. There's a lot of chargers in Winnipeg, so that isn't really an issue anymore. When I first got the EV, there was very few chargers available. There's quite a few now. Then I did a road trip to Saskatoon in my EV in 2021, and the only way that I could do that was because I think it was Petro-Canada had just installed charging stations at sort of good intervals all along the Trans-Canada Highway. So that was great, but I had to go off to Trans-Canada for part of that trip, so that was a little harrowing. But when you go north of the city, it's difficult because there are now some charging stations. We have a cottage north of the city, and there's a charging station that was installed there, and then they replaced it with a fast charger, but it's always out of order. So I know, and that's a complaint that people have with those chargers, but I can see in the next few years that things are going to be a lot easier. There's going to be chargers readily available when you do most trips. And having a charger at home, which we do, makes a big difference as well, because the problem is in deep cold, not only does your range drop, your charging time drops. And if you have more than one person using that car, you need a quicker charger than the sort of level 1 drip charger. Mm-hmm. But anyway, yeah, to your question, charging has improved dramatically since we bought this, but it has a ways to go still.
Howard, thanks for your time. Really appreciate you calling in. All the best.
Thanks, Corey. Have a good day.
Be like Howard. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. And maybe you are a EV owner, a recent one or a long-time one, or maybe you're kind of sitting on the fence. Do I get one? Do I not? Tell us what's kind of going through your mind. Why not? 204-780-0893. James, president of the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association. What do you make of Howard's story?
It's nice to hear others talk about how great the EV ownership experience has been. I know I had a 2019 Hyundai Kona electric. That was our first EV. And I did, I think, about 5 or 6 road trips out to Alberta with it. So it was nice seeing over the years the improvement of the charging stations and especially the growth of the charging stations. I know we are working to get more charging stations up in more of the northern kind of cottage communities. That's kind of a struggle right now to get that going. But
and yourself now, in terms of what vehicle do you own now, and how's that going for you?
So right now we own 2 EVs. We own a 2016 Tesla Model X and a 2014 Nissan Leaf. So 2 very different vehicles, meant for kind of very different things. Nissan Leaf is fantastic for in the city. Cheap, easy to use with just plugging in on a 120 outlet. Your normal outlet has charged even in the minus 40 windshields that we were having. So fantastic for that.
We've got Quentin on the line. Hi there, Quentin.
Hello.
So I understand you've been an EV owner now for about 4 years. How's that been for you?
That's right. It's been very good.
And what? Yeah, tell us about how it's gone.
Yeah. Well, we've contrary to what I hear a lot of times in the media, we've had not any big problems doing long trips. We go out to Revelstoke to see our son. We go to Southern Ontario to see family there. We've been to Louisville, Kentucky. And on all those journeys, we've been able to make that with an electric car without not big difficulties. In the early stages, we did have to pay careful attention to our PlugShare app, which is an app that shows where chargers are available. Because when we first got it, they were spread out a little bit farther, but these days it's getting better and better. And so I would never think of getting a gas car again.
Thanks for your input there, Quentin. Really appreciate it. Keep those calls coming. There's lots, actually. Our line's kind of blowing up. 204-780-0893. We also just want to go actually right to another caller. We have David on the line. Hi there, David.
Hello?
Hi. What's your EV experience there, David?
Yeah, it's been entirely positive. I think your guest there with the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association would probably agree with the statement that I think once people have had an electric car, they would never, ever go back to a gas vehicle ever again.
And what's kept you from going back? What is it about? I think you've said I see you've owned it for 2.5 years. What?
That's right.
What's kept you from going back?
Well, one of the things that people will learn when they get their electric cars is that you essentially manage your charging of that car in a different way than you do with a gas vehicle. So with a gasoline-powered vehicle, you fill up your tank, and then over the course of a few days or a couple of weeks, depending on your driving habits, you deplete the tank, and then you go and you fill it up again. But with an electric car, you're really always driving a fully charged vehicle, in my experience anyway, because you typically drive 20, 30 kilometers in a day, so you don't draw the batteries down very much. And then when you're not driving the car, you're plugging it in. So I think that what a lot of the anxiety around, a lot of the range anxiety people have is actually they'll find out that's not really a justified anxiety once they realize how they'll be driving their electric vehicle.
Thanks for your time, David. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
That is David. You can be like him, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. James, we'll get back to you, but actually first I want to chat with Cheryl, who's on the line. I know you actually have some kind of concerns about electric vehicles. Share your thoughts there, Cheryl.
Yes. Well, I mean, there are a number of different concerns here that, first of all, the weight of the electric cars are much heavier, as we know, than the present gas-burning vehicles. And so, we know the damage to our roadways with what we're driving already. And long-term, as we get more and more of these heavier vehicles on the road, I just shudder as to what our roadways are going to look like. So that's a concern. The other concern is there, as I, go around Winnipeg and I see we're getting more and more and more multi-unit living building situations, for housing. And, there isn't the infrastructure that's being built to accommodate, I think, the numbers of, apartments and condominiums that I see going up. So that's another concern. Mm-hmm. The other concern is just looking at worldwide in terms of mining all the various minerals that are required to build these batteries to sustain the electric car business. And, these are all major, major concerns. And, there is this push, to get the rebates and buy into this. but I think we have to be a little bit more mindful in terms of looking more of a global aspect of this. And I guess my other sort of ending comment would, if I were to consider going towards an electric vehicle, I think for our vast country that we have here, I would feel more apt to maybe look at a hybrid situation. I don't think the gas industry is going to be going away anytime soon. And so those are all my points.
So you're open to it, but it's really these concerns that are keeping. Is that those main
Yeah.
concerns that are keeping you from maybe
Yes,
buying an EV
major.
or going to? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for the call, Cheryl. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
James, I'm curious what your response is to Cheryl's concerns. I know there's wider concerns on
Oh.
the strain on infrastructure and the environment that come with EVs.
So I guess let's take it from kind of the first deal, weight of the vehicle. At the beginning, yeah, they were heavier, but the weights are getting closer and closer to being on par with their counterparts, like a Kona Electric versus a Kona Gas. They're a lot closer together now. So the weights are coming down with the new battery technologies, because that's where most of that weight is coming from. I believe the next one was.
I believe the next one did have to do with if we go to the environment in terms of mining. Actually, no. Let's talk about building hydroelectric infrastructure, things like that as well.
So there is different technologies out there that Quebec has even Quebec and BC have kind of started with especially like condos and apartment buildings, being able to kind of stagger the different charging and all that, so that people are still able to charge and it's not this massive one-time draw on it. So there is technologies out there to assist with that, and we are finding a fair number of condos and apartments reaching out to us to look at how they can start future-proofing their buildings and all that. So it is being looked at. There is a lot more available on the commercial side than a residential side. So, yeah.
And I guess finally, the other concern was the environment, mining, things like that. What's kind of your response or concerns about the impact on that EVs have on that?
So there is certain segments that are struggling with it, but the same segments also, we all have cell phones, all that. So we're still dealing with it. The nice part though with the EV batteries is they're being recycled with 98% reusability. So the minerals are being split up. There is at least two major companies that I know of, one in Canada, one in the US, that are basically separating the minerals and creating new batteries from that. And you can indefinitely keep using it.
And thanks for that response, James. We've actually got one more caller on the line here. Marina, hello there. Marina, and potentially some dogs as well.
Yes, of course.
That's all good. So I understand you actually have two EVs?
Yeah, we've got a Tesla Model 3 and a Cyber Beast, and that's our second Tesla 3. So I guess about 5 years we've been driving EVs.
Okay. And what's your experience been?
Excellent. Just so great. It just, for me, I've been wanting one for so long and just, been watching the market and watching to see what was coming out. But it's reducing our global footprint is important to me. We have solar panels in our yard. So, going to EV was the next step. We've got in the garage. So we're all set. It's just easy. Maintenance, pretty much.
And do you buy these before the rebate at all?
We didn't qualify for the rebate because the price of the car was too high.
Okay, gotcha.
Which was not much of an incentive, but we were getting one anyway. So
right. And as time goes on, as you maybe look to replace your EV for life.
Absolutely. You can't go back when you drive by the gas stations and see the prices now. It's just like, oh my God, thank you. We're not doing that anymore.
No, well, thanks for your time, Marina. Really, really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
That is Marina, one of our callers. One thing I think you and other callers said. So EVs are great. People love everything about them once they've got them. But like Cheryl brought up, there is still ways to go in terms of infrastructure, things like that. There's this rebate that's an incentive, but in terms of what we need from the province, from decision makers, from businesses, what do we still need to make Manitoba in your opinion, a friendlier pace, a more appealing place to own an EV, James?
I think the biggest thing right now is infrastructure, especially more in the northern community. I know I've chatted with people from up in Thompson and all that. Some of these northern communities that would love to have an EV, but can't get from Thompson to Winnipeg in a shot. It's usually a 2 days. I know our past president went up to Thompson with his Tesla Model Y and stayed at a campground overnight in order to charge up. So we need to make the infrastructure more available, more easier to spot, because there's also a lot of infrastructure that's there, but chargers are kind of small. There's not big signs saying it. So if you don't really know what you're looking for, some are not noticeable.
We also got a question here. Someone sent along. So Faria was driving, but left this question. So she owns a hybrid and loves it, but wants to buy another used hybrid vehicle. Are there any resources, that you can provide to purchase a used hybrid EV?
So the thing I love about our association is we have such a mixed bag of owners. So it's reaching out to our association, and depending on what she's looking at, what her needs are, maybe we can connect her with an owner that can tell her kind of the real world experiences with a certain type of vehicle, and make that buying choice a lot easier.
We've got like 2 minutes before we got to say goodbye, but I do want to squeeze Jake on the line. Hi there, Jake.
Hi there.
Hi. What do you want to share?
Hi. I wanted to mention there's a sort of missing middle here that a lot of people don't really think about, and that's e-bikes and e-scooters and small electric vehicles like that. Even town cars like the newer smart cars are all, you wouldn't drive them on the highway really, but they're great for city driving. And a lot of those infrastructure woes that people are mentioning, and even some of the conflict mineral things that people are mentioning, are solved by those small vehicles. And a lot of those parts are recyclable. They're very repairable. I've repaired my own e-bike, for example. And it's great for getting to work, great for getting groceries for sure. So I think that's kind of a missing component that a lot of people haven't really mentioned.
Thanks for that call. Really appreciate it. James, in the last minute or so here, are you seeing more demand for those type of electric vehicles as well? People automatically think cars, trucks, things like that. But what do you think also? Because we talked more about like plugging infrastructure for those, but in terms of infrastructure for those kind of electric vehicles, what needs to change to make those more appealing here in Manitoba as well?
Even talking to some of these bike sellers, the e-bikes are definitely becoming more popular, way easier for even communities that might have some mobility issues, right? The biggest thing with those is to make sure that they have certifications like the CSA, ULA, and then most of those you can just plug into a normal 120 outlet. Some of them you can even pop the battery off and bring into your office or whatever and charge up while you're at work. So,
yeah. Well, James, we'll have to leave it there. We could talk for another hour about this because I have like literally 10 more questions, but we had so many great calls. So thank you everyone who called. Thank you, James. Really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
That's James Hart. He is president of the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association. Big thanks to everyone who called, and big thanks to the wonderful crew who helped put together today's show. Marshall Hodgins, Sierra Sanders, Wendy Parker, and Travis Peterson. Stay tuned to Up to Speed today. Margot Watt is going to be sitting in the host chair. They're going to talk about treating ADHD as an illness that reduces longevity, and it could improve diagnosis and social supports. They're going to hear from a psychologist about that. Coming up on CBC Radio 1, Unreserved. I'm Corey Funk. Have a good one.